At AGF, we have 1 point for a strong submission attack. There should be no gray area for what an actual strong submission attack is. There should be no more needed steps to be applied in order for the submission to happen. So I don't have to break a grip, I don't have to pass an arm across, I don't have to do anything extra in order to finish the submission. I'm already at the point to where I'm either stretching a limb, applying a strangle, applying a wrist lock, a foot lock, anything like this. So now I'm applying the submission. So that's when we start to look for giving 1 point for the person who's attacking. I'll give some common scenarios, okay? Jiu-jitsu is far too large to give every possible type of scenario to give a point for a submission. So I will show a few and I'll show some of the most common ones, okay? So we'll start with the armbar. So when I have the arm, and let's turn a little bit, buddy. So in the armbar position, and his hands are still connected, we won't give a point here. We only give a point once the grip is broken, okay? It doesn't matter how that grip is broken or how his arm got free of the grip, but once we're here, there's no more needed steps to be applied for me to get the point. So I'm just stretching his arm at this point. I don't have to be sitting here and hold his arm straightened for any length of time in order to get a point. Okay, just know that as soon as I'm able to go back, that's where the advantage is going to start to happen. Same thing if I'm in the guard, right? So if he's in my guard and I have a regular arm lock and I'm here and he has his arms defended, that's one thing. But once I have his arm being straightened like this, this is now where I would give a point for the strong submission attack. Another scenario that happens a lot is the triangle, okay? AGF, kids can actually pull the head on a triangle, and I also want to show you where it's going to definitely be worth 1 point for adults as well. So if I had my opponent in a threatening stage here of a triangle, this is not going to be worth a point. I will have to have my legs completely triangled and his arm passed across. That's when I can start at earning a point for a submission attack once I start strangling him this way. There are several other variations of different types of triangles that you can do, but this is the max potential, having the arm pass across and pulling the head. Over here, he's under a major threat, but he's not quite gonna get a point for the strong submission attack. I still gotta pass his arm across, and I still wanna be pulling on his head. Okay, so that will let you know this is what I have to do to even pull the head as a kid at AGF, but also for me to get my point, I have to have the arm passed across and my legs completely triangled. I'm not like this, okay? Another position is the omoplata. So the omoplata is a tricky type of sweep combined with a submission. So we have to draw a line as to where it's the actual submission attack. So if I were to throw an omoplata and he were to accept the sweep or come up or whatever the case may be, right? I didn't quite fully attack the submission. I used the submission in joint with a reversal, with a sweep. So when it gets to the point where I'm over his back with my arm, now I'm fully attacking the sub. This is where we would give 1 point for the attacker. So once I go for the omo, right, I don't get anything here, but once I cover his back, once my arm goes over his spine, right? So this isn't a submission point here. This isn't like this. I sit up, and once my hand covers over his spine, I start going over his hips. I start going over here. I start searching for his collars. Once my hand crosses over his spine, this is where you're going to start to give the point for an omoplata, because at this point, he's really got to escape. All I have to do is start to lean forward, of course, and he's getting tapped. So if my arm's over, connected, collar gripped, or anything like that, and I'm coming up, this is where the referee should give a point for the submission. Now, if I got all the way up to here, and he rolled, I would get 3 points, 2 for the reversal and 1 for the strong submission attack if I hold it for 3 seconds. So some of those positions are just like they were previously, where you're able to score while attacking a submission. A guillotine is another spot where it can be difficult for a referee to really tell if somebody's choking or if they're perfectly fine breathing. You can't always see how some people's hands are underneath someone's chin. But what we can see by someone choking is their defenses, right? If they start jumping to the other side of the head to go for a Von Fleur type movement, if they start hand fighting really hard, if they start raising their butt up in the air and they start doing all those technical things in order to get a guillotine escape going, we know now that they're choking and they're actively defending the submission, right? Also, something they could do from a standing guillotine or a front headlock type position is they can spin upside down, right? Spin belly up. Some guys will do that as a last ditch effort, right? And that's definitely gonna be a point because that was the max. That dude was so caught, he flipped upside down to escape, okay? So, case in point. So I'm here, I have my arm wrapped all the way around, right? Maybe the ref can't see everything that's going on with the hands. I go for a guillotine, but if, you know, I might not give the advantage or the point to the person who's on bottom. If I'm a ref, I wouldn't give the point to me just yet. But if Orlando jumped to the other side, well, now I know he's actively defending. Once he escapes, then it could have been a point for me if I had a strong attack underneath his neck and I was attacking his neck and he actively escaped, then it would be a point for me. Okay, gotta be careful, it could be a guard pass as well too. Another thing is, when you see a full guillotine in the guard, and then he puts his arm over my neck, right, raises it up to his feet, and he starts doing these types of movements and fighting my hands, right now, this is him full-blown actively defending an over-the-top head grabbing guillotine. So once you see that movement in closed guard, or you see a major jump over to the other side with a clean neck grab with both hands, then it's gonna be 1 point for the guillotine. All right, same thing with ankle locks. Okay, we're gonna give 1 point for ankle locks, heel hooks, any of that, right? It depends on your division, of course. But if I go belly down, doesn't matter my position of my legs. Like if I'm here, if I'm 50-50, if I'm whatever the case may be, and I go to stretch someone out belly down this way, this is the max potential in which we can stretch someone's foot. Is belly down. So if you, as a referee, if you see someone go belly down on an ankle lock, you should be giving a point once that plays out, because that's the max potential. I mean, belly down, armbar, guillotine, rear naked choke, everything belly down is the worst in jiu-jitsu, right? So when they go belly down with the ankle lock, it's the same thing as well. Be careful with the, I like to call them flash subs, but they are hardcore legit attacks. So I may be here like this, and it's legal for me to heel hook, and he starts to turn a little bit, and I switch to a heel hook. I went from an ankle lock, right, to a heel hook. Now I'm starting to rotate, and then I turn it into a knee bar, right? So now I'm starting to attack a knee bar. You can, if you have a legit heel hook or legit ankle lock that makes them defend, and they get caught right into another sub, maybe he escapes, whatnot. I could have easily have gotten 2 points for attacking an ankle lock and then a heel hook. Just because the submissions sometimes can go bang, 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 doesn't mean there wasn't a full, scary limb threat. Let me give another example. Butterfly guard, right? He goes to like get an underhook over here, right? And I can get this arm, like these are nasty, right? So that can happen fast, boom, yeah, and he does that. So that could be a fast armbar that's not necessarily stretched out for 3 seconds. It's like, and turn. And then the guy's, he had to turn his arm and give up the Omo in order to escape the armbar, right? So sometimes there will be legitimate, I call them flash subs, like they're happening real fast, but they are hardcore legitimate. If that person did not defend and turn their body or arm a certain way, they would have tapped to the first submission. That's when you know it was worth 1 point, okay? If it was just put on, not quite caught, you know, not quite ankle locked or one arm, or, you know, different scenarios where it looks like it's kind of iffy, make sure that it looks 100% like they are attacking. If you think that it's 100% that they are attacking as a referee, then you can give them the point. If they're still sloppy, then obviously it's not quite time to give the point for the submission attack, okay? So watch out for quick submissions. Also watch out for submissions in combination, and also like rolling from the mount. You know, like if I had him in a triangle, we talked about this in another video, but for example, if I had him in a triangle and I was here and then he rolled me over to escape, right? But somehow, some way he escaped, yes, he would get his 2 points for a reversal, but I would also get my 1 point for the attack once he freed his head. Okay, so those are some funky situations, but we're kind of used to that already as referees, just trying to put it out there for all of the coaches and competitors as well too. The Americana is probably, or the key lock, whatever your school calls it, it's probably one of the most common subs that you're gonna see at the beginner level. We have more lower ranked competitors than you do upper ranked competitors. So as referees, really need to watch this, okay? Because Americana is very common. We're looking for, as a ref, for my near elbow to be next to his head to give the point for a submission attack. As long as I'm up here and attacking, even if this arm's down, this is not a submission attack. But once I drop my elbow on the ground, this arm doesn't matter if it's on the ground. It can be up, it can be down, but that's when the Americana really starts to happen, is when this one's on the ground. If it's up, if it's around like this is super common too. No point for the submission attack. But once I go here, now it's time, right? This is just crank time at that point, all right? So that's definitely a spot that's super common for kids and for beginners. You're gonna see it a lot as a referee. So just make sure the near side arm, again, touches the mat, boom. And whatever happens after that, there's variations of different ways to finish. So that's really up to that person there. But all of them finish with the near side arm next to their head is down. So that's when you know it's an attack for an Americana. When it comes to a Kimura, stay there, buddy. When it comes to a Kimura, you got 3 different Kimuras typically. Closed guard or A guard, top side control, and north-south, okay? So it's 3 different ones. I'll show you the 3 different positions in which you get points. When I'm in side control and I have a Kimura, I'm not necessarily gonna get a point while I'm in this position until I stop his body from moving and his head from moving. So once my leg gets over his head and I start pushing, this is now when I get my opponent's hand behind his back. That's the key. Once the opponent's hand is behind the back, that's when we give the point for the strong submission attack. See how his hand's here? If his hand's not behind his back, it can grab, in the gi, he can grab his belt, his rash guard, his hands, all that kind of stuff can happen there. But once I'm down and now I'm gonna step over his head. Some people just put a knee, some people put a whole leg, right? And his hand now, look, is behind his back technically. So that's where I would be able to give the strong submission attack. When he's in north-south and I go for the Kimura this way, again, it's not till I break the grip, whether you're up like this and you like to Kimura here or here. Once I break the opponent's grip and the hand starts to cross over to the back, it doesn't have to be behind the back. Let's turn, Orlando. But it has to break the plane of his back. You see this? So like I can bring it up or I can bring it right over. But either way, the hand will pass his spine and that's where the tap starts to happen, right? So once the hand goes towards the back from north-south or from side control, that's where we're gonna give the point for the strong submission attack. Same thing with the closed guard, okay? Super common, and kids and white belts are very weak in their positions. So once that hand gets to their back, there's usually no returning from that. So I prefer to stop it most times when it's kids or white belt adults or whatnot, even blue belts. So if there's a Kimura that happens and this person gets their hand put behind their back, usually there's no coming home from that. These guys are gonna get Kimura'd or injured. It's not a real strong place to be. So north-south side control and guard, once that hand goes past their ribs and onto their back, that's when you give the strong submission attack.